appear, at least for now, as if Super Sage Northcutt has fought his final fight inside the UFC octagon. On Tuesday, UFC President Dana White told the UFC Unfiltered podcast that the company had, quote, let go Sage Northcutt, that they wanted him to go out, fight for different promotions, and maybe build up his resume, and then perhaps come back to the company. However, I spoke to multiple sources close to Sage, including his head coach over at Team Alpha Male, one Uriah Faber, who told me it didn't exactly go down quite like that. As you may recall, back in July, Sage fought the final fight on his UFC deal. He won that fight, third win in a row, 6-2 now inside the octagon. Well, after that fight, there was an exclusive negotiation period with the UFC. He was able to elapse that time and then go out and field other offers from different promotions. His team tells me that he received lucrative deals from One Championship, Bellator, Combate Americas, to name a few. Well, there was one deal in particular that he really liked, took that back to the UFC because they had the right to match that offer, and they just couldn't. But the UFC was certainly interested in keeping Sage Northcutt around, they told me. In fact, very recently, less than 2 weeks ago, they offered him a main event shot against a top 10 contender. That's how serious they were about keeping him around. At that point, Sage Northcutt had already set his sights on moving on. He is very close to signing a new deal with a new promotion, fighting elsewhere. His team wouldn't tell me where exactly that fight promotion is situated, who they are. They wouldn't say that right now, but they did say that that news should come out in the very near future. So yes, it is true that Super Sage Northcutt is moving on. Yes, it is true that he will not be fighting in the UFC anymore. However, the narrative that the UFC released him or didn't want to be in business with him, not 100% accurate, according to sources close to Sage Northcutt.
So I would never say never, although he's been very adamant he doesn't want to be in the UFC anymore. It just is a matter of, does he want to fight after this? What are the options? One Championship is obviously the kind of the hot spot right now where fighters have been going.
That's not it. That's not it.
That ain't it.
That ain't it.
Hey, you never know. You never know, man. I mean, in that part of the world, especially, Australia, it's not too far for him to go to places like, look, they're doing a Japan show in April, or I think maybe in late March, One Championship. Mark Hunt headlining Japan or being on that card would be massive. Ryzen is out there.
Oh, there you go.
Bellator.
You have a very long-winded answer. That's exactly where I was going to go with that. Ryzen, man.
Yeah.
Mark Hunt in Japan. That's a thing. I seen him go back to fight in Ryzen, to fight in Japan, to fight in Saitama Super Arena, where he made his legend, where he built his legend. How cool would that be? That man is 44 years old, and he is still going strong. And I just looked it up while you were speaking. He is indeed fighting the last fight of his contract this weekend. So
All right.
This is the end of it, and he wants to keep going, man. He's not done, even at age 44. They really are kind of setting him up as they put him against Justin Willis. They kind of this is one of those. They're hoping the young eats the old type of thing. Justin can make a name off of Mark Hunt, but man, Mark Hunt in Ryzen or Mark Hunt in Bellator. You give me one of those two. You give me Mark Hunt versus Fedor.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You
how
don't
about
think
Mark Hunt versus Rampage Jackson?
I'm on board all of this. You know that he will get paid wherever he goes because, like you said, he is a name. He is a one of the last few remnants of a nostalgic time for a lot of fans. The same thing as Fedor. He's going to get money wherever he goes. He's been making very good money with the UFC, but he's just done with the UFC, and I'm sure he can make very good money elsewhere. I would be stunned if he fought again in the UFC after this weekend.
Let me throw one more possibility at you, Sean. Golden Boy MMA. Mark Hunt in Golden Boy MMA. How about that?
Mark Hunt versus Tito. Is that what you're lobbying for?
Mark Hunt, Oscar De La Hoya at the podium. Mark Hunt sitting alongside him.
No, man. Give me Ryzen or give me the Fedor fight in Bellator. Those are my two. I need them.
befuddled by the reaction to this fight on Saturday night, and I think it's maybe because we were all gearing up to see the Chuck Liddell versus Tito Ortiz fight, and we're all kind of feeling weird about it. But on Saturday night, I saw a lot of negativity. I saw a lot of hate about this fight, and I'm thinking to myself, what am I missing here? This is an incredible matchup. This is a stroke of genius. Well done, McMaynard, UFC matchmaker. This is the fight that we all wanted to see. If it wasn't going to be Israel Adesanya fighting for the belt in Australia, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, this was the fight to make. I mean, is Anderson Silva getting knocked out in his last few fights? No, he's coming off a win. I know it was a while ago. I know he's coming off a suspension, but he wasn't embarrassed. He beat Derek Brunson. Yes, it was controversial, but it's not like the guy is getting smoked in there. The last time he got finished was in 2013 when he broke his own leg against Chris Weidman. Anderson Silva is not Tito Ortiz. He's not Chuck Liddell. Why are we all so concerned about his well-being and his health and safety? This is the fight game.
He just can't do it. He just got an inability. He is a narcissist to the highest of levels, and he's a terrible communicator to the highest of levels. So when you combine those two, you really have a thing of magic. Okay, this is great. First off, Tito's doing his post-fight speech, and he's thanking everyone in the world, right? He does not know at this point, part of his narcissism, combined with he's just generally not very intelligent. He does not know nobody's watching. He thinks he is performing this in 1 million+ households, okay? He does not understand by any level of metrics that the people that are there live were given tickets and nobody bought this show. So he's cutting this interview, this heroic moment, this winner's moment interview. I mean, Jiminy Christmas, it took him 5 minutes and he wasn't in there in a fight. It took him 4 minutes before he realized, I'm not fighting anybody. There's nobody in here. There's just a guy over here. I just need to go touch him one time and we can all go home. And it still took him over 4 minutes to touch him. But he doesn't have the self-awareness to do this, and it's so genuine, which is what makes his interview so wonderful. Just this wonderful disaster to watch. So he's doing his interview, and he just wants Chuck to know. He just wants Chuck to know this is the best Tito Ortiz that the world has seen in 21 years. Now, there was a part of Tito within that message that was trying to say, hey, Chuck, don't be hard on yourself. This isn't a rebuke on you. This is a narrative that I am that good. He meant it to be nice. As hard, as arrogant as that sound, that was actually what his message was. But what he effectively did without communicating that well was he also went ahead and covered the 2 losses that he had to Chuck. He went ahead and kind of tried to wipe away those losses without accepting any responsibility to the fact that he took on a guy who barely got a license and hadn't done it in 8 years, and back to that 8-year date was forced out of the sport. He didn't take any kind of consideration into that.
Which fight do you want more? Hot Balls Derek Lewis or Francis Ngannou?
I have to go for Hot Balls.
Now, why is that?
Well, okay, so we haven't fought before, and he's ranked higher. He's just ranked higher. You know, I definitely have a score to settle with Francis, and I have no doubt that undoubtedly that will happen in the future sometime. But to me, Derek Lewis is more appealing because of those 2 reasons. I haven't fought him before, that's number one, and he's higher ranked.
Now, aside from the fact you haven't fought him before and he's higher ranked, what do you make of him as a fighter, as an opponent?
Well, he's a strong guy. He's a heavy hitter. But I'm sure I can put him away. I am going to put him away. We fight, I will put him away 100%.